What's up, everybody? This is Alex Wink Inc. Michael, and here's what we got going today. We're going to talk about Valve and Steam in particular. Probably everyone has started to see the news kind of trickle in that Valve and Steam are going to be censoring, it looks like, some of the user reviews that they consider to be review bombing. I just wanted to talk about this a little bit today, kind of maybe shed a little bit of light on it, kind of give you what I feel like my opinion is on the situation, and whether or not it's a good move. Can see how there would be a lot of varying degrees of opinions on this. I mean, some people view it as censorship, like just in the worst form. People even take it as far as saying it's a free speech issue and things like that. They think that you're not going to be able to hold developers accountable now because, if you're looking at bad reviews and you review bomb it, but you can actually review bomb it in a positive way as well, but they're only focusing on the negative. I can see both sides of this, but I kind of am at a stance of one side of it, and I'll get into that. But, of course, we'll look at a couple articles, kind of see what everybody thinks, and kind of go from there. This is an interesting phenomenon with this review bombing thing. I mean, the Rotten Tomatoes deal with around Captain Marvel, where they started to remove bad scores. But what was interesting about that one, that one was handled very poorly, I felt like, on Rotten Tomatoes' end. It just continued to fuel the fire when they did that. But at the end of the day, I believe and I feel like it all kind of shook out the way that it was supposed to. Because if you noticed on some of the charts, people were review bombing it with 10s and people were review bombing it with 0s. And what ended up happening, though, was you were able to see those two scores sort of washed each other out. But you were able to see that at the end of the day, the audience score really was about a 6 out of 10. And it seemed like that was the general consensus for the movie. And at the end of the day, it all kind of worked out. And I guess the fear with Steam doing this is that you may end up seeing inflated scores for developers, and it would be easier for developers to manipulate their scores. And I could definitely see that side of the coin. But I think that Steam has kind of a good proven track record of really policing this type of stuff. I know they've been in the news with that rape game. That was a really stupid, unfortunate mistake by them. I mean, I get it that you want to let people create, but you have to put some boundaries up. And unfortunately, that's the reality of today. You have to have boundaries. But let's get into this article here, just kind of see what we have. And this is courtesy of VG247. And as always, articles referenced will be, or used will be in the description below. But we have Steam off-topic review bombs, quote, will no longer count towards a game's review score. Now, this doesn't necessarily say they're going to remove them. They're just not going to count them in the overall score. And I believe that they have established a process that is at least worth a shot, at least give them a chance to try it. And here we go. In an effort to squash review bombing on Steam, off-topic reviews will no longer count toward the overall game score. Valve is working to counter review bombing on Steam by removing what it considers off-topic reviews from the overall review score. It works like this. When the team at Valve notices an influx of negative reviews, it will investigate. Should it find a slew of what it considers reviews unrelated to the likelihood that future purchasers will be unhappy if they buy the game, it will not count toward the review score. A team at the company built a tool which identifies anomalous review activity as close to real-time as possible. Should instance of review bombing be found, the team marks the time period it encompasses, and reviews from said time period will be removed from the score calculation. The company will then inform the game developer of the removal. Unfortunately, any legitimate reviews submitted during this time period also won't be included in the review score because review bombs tend to be temporary distortions. All reviews will be caught in the net. Steam users will be able to find and read the review. It just won't count toward the score. Therein lies the problem, that paragraph right there. So once this tool triggers and it figures out that, hey, there's an influx of reviews, all of the good ones also get swept up in that deal. So if you, as an independent reviewer, some of these curators and stuff, they take this stuff very seriously. So as an independent reviewer, you may type a lengthy review and really do a good job of dissecting the game and putting a review out there that people could use, and your review will not be used in the overall score. That is an incredible disappointment, all just because of bad timing on your part. So that's an incredibly disappointing feature. Also really kind of silly that it works that way. You would almost think that they could do a little better job in finding out how to fix that issue. You know, it looks like they've really thought about this for a while. I'm sure developers have been crying nonstop about this, like, hey, we got to get this fixed. You know, because it does probably affect their overall sales. Let's go to the next one here, and this is via The Verge. Valve says it will investigate Steam review bombing campaigns and hide bad faith scores, but there are still problems with this approach. That's interesting that he put that in there. But either way, Valve says it's taken a new approach to user reviews on its gaming marketplace Steam after attempting and largely failing to solve the problem of so-called review bombing that taints its consumer recommendation system. And I think it's important that people keep this in mind, that this had to come about because the reviews are tied to the consumer recommendation system. That's a very important thing to note. It's one thing for it to just bomb the review and then people are able to look into it and kind of do their own research and see. But the other side of this, and the more important side, is it definitely taints the consumer recommendation system. So people, the beauty of Steam for an indie developer especially is that if a game is a certain type of game and matches with a category of like a AAA title, that game is more likely to be recommended to someone playing the AAA title. Well, if it's review bombed to oblivion, it won't be recommended, therefore it won't get exposure, therefore it won't be sold. That's a really important fact to note right there. Goes on to talk about the same thing the other article did. Defining review bombing has become a common tactic for disgruntled internet users to register their displeasure with a particular product on the internet, but in some cases it's also used as a bad faith tactic to retaliate against a company or public figure associated with said company. That's a hard point to argue against. That is true. You know, here's where they kind of go into, they dissect some of the issues that you're going to see with this. This is where they get into the issue with it, the problem with doing this. The issues with this new modified approach. Valve admits the good faith reviews that happened to be posted during the incident may get their scores removed alongside the bad faith ones, adding it isn't feasible for us to read every single review. It's unclear how effective Valve's approach will be if some cases and some active users, the very ones that may enjoy participating in review bombing campaigns, can simply opt out of the measures the company is taking to combat them. There's now a checkbox system in your Steam store options where you can choose to have off-topic review bombs still included in all the review scores you see. So, as a user, you can actually toggle this on or off. That is a very smart decision by Valve and Steam. Very well done. At least you have the opportunity to include them manually in the score if you want them. That makes this a lot more easy to buy into for me. Still, by investigating review bomb campaigns and removing disingenuous and off-topic reviews, Valve has taken a more active approach to moderating its platform compared with the hands-off strategy that's landed it in such hot water in the past. So let's talk about this for a minute. Let's go in and just kind of talk about this for a minute. This is a difficult topic to have an informed opinion on. But here's the bottom line. I believe that everybody, even on one side or the other, recognizes that review bombing is an issue. And I think that everybody can appreciate the fact that Valve is trying to do something to, combat this, or to at least shed light on it. And I think that's what's important about this. Now, I would be honest with you. I did not support this decision that they are doing because I do believe that it is a form of censorship. I do believe that since the good reviews are swept up in it, that really just makes the entire process questionable. And it really takes away the value of the Steam review. However, there is one very important factor. That toggle switch that allows you to put those reviews back in manually for yourself. And I think that the other issue that I could see being argued is that, don't you want to trust your consumer to make the right call? Don't you want your consumer to, consumers right now are the most educated that they've ever been. They're going to, if they have a genuine interest in a game, they're going to read through the minutia and the garbage to see exactly what people think. We're smart enough to recognize a bad review. But the one thing that people need to keep in mind is that this affects their algorithm. So therefore, it has to be addressed, period. I don't disagree with this at all. I genuinely try to put the information out there and not take a firm stance, but to be honest with you, in this case, I actually can appreciate and respect what Valve is trying to do. Only because they allow you, as a user, to toggle the reviews back in to affect the score with that switch. At least that's how I understand it. That makes this entire process worth at least trying out. not panicking, not freaking out, not saying, oh my gosh, they're censoring everybody, it's free speech, all this stuff. No. Let's try this out. Let's give them an opportunity to do it. The grim reality, the business side of this is that they need to find creative ways to appease developers. They have to, because they have faced more competition right now than they ever have. So let's give this a shot. And I agree. I mean, from a business standpoint, if a developer's biggest problem is review bombing on your platform and you're taking 30% of their take for making the game just to sell it on your store, by God, if this were Steam and I own Steam, I'm doing it. I'm doing this. They actually have thought this out. It looks like they've put some effort into this, some energy into this, and this is what we have now. I think it's worth a shot. I think it's worth giving it a chance. Again, the only issue I have is it takes the actual good, honest, like really well done reviews, whether they are good or bad, if they get caught up in that algorithm as well, that kind of stinks. I think that needs to be built upon and looked at. But other than that, I feel like this could be a decent move, and I feel like we should give it a chance to see what it does. But let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you think that this is just pure censorship and this is garbage, or do you think it's worth looking at and giving a shot to? I'm always interested to hear what you think. I respond to most comments. I always read them all. I 100% read all of them, and thank you all so much for the support. But that's all I've got for today, and I will see you on the next one.